Today I am going to discuss the rules of debit and credit based on accounting equation. Accounting equation is assets is equal to liabilities plus capital. That means we have to record all the transactions in such a way that this accounting equation is always maintained. That means whatever the sum of all the assets with us, the same amount should be represented by liabilities plus capital. That means our system of maintaining accounts should be such that if whatever the total of debits, it should be equal to the total of credits. So to maintain that, we will follow certain rules. Let us understand those rules now. This is a T-shaped account, and left hand side of this account is called debit side and right hand side is called credit side. Okay, now for assets we traditionally use the left hand side for additions. That means all the additions which you make to an asset are recorded on the debit side, and whenever there is any subtraction to be made, for example if we sell an asset, it is to be reduced from the total, then this credit side is used. And in case of liabilities, again debit side is left hand side and right hand side is credit side. And you see, if we have chosen for assets left hand side for additions, so that both sides remain same, the total of both sides remain same, we have to choose the credit side in case of liabilities for additions, and whenever we have to subtract, we shall use the debit side. And this rule applies to liabilities as well as to capital. Why so? The reason is very simple to understand. The reason is, from the angle of business, both liabilities and capital are same thing. In the sense, liabilities we owe to outsiders, but capital business owes to the proprietor. But from the angle of business, both are liabilities, so the rules followed will be same both for liabilities and capital. So what we can make out from what I have told right now, rule should be debit when assets increase, and similarly credit when assets decrease. That means whenever whatever the account of any asset, for example if it is cash account, if you receive cash from the proprietor, that means you have to add to your cash account say 50,000 rupees, so it will be added to this side of cash account. And since now capital account is also to be increased by 50,000, this 50,000 will be put to the credit side of capital account. Okay? You know, in this way the accounting equation is maintained. In this case there is a debit of 50,000 in cash account and same amount is credited to capital account. Okay? So the second rule is credit when liabilities increase, and the other side is used when liabilities decrease. So debit when liabilities when liabilities decrease. So this is quite clear. Now we shall move on to the other accounts. They are revenue accounts and expenses and losses account. Let us first, before proceeding to those portions, let us understand one thing. All the losses and expenses reduce capital account. That's very true. For example, if you pay salary of 3,000 rupees, now that 3,000 will be reduced from capital. That means all expenses reduce the capital. So if they were to be put on in the capital account, they will be put on this side. Is that right? That means all expenses and losses should be, all expenses should be debited. I am saying so because basically all expenses, if you look at it from capital accounts view, they are a part of capital accounts debit side because they are reducing capital account. But since for our analysis purpose, we need to keep all the expenses accounts separate. So if we keep on, say for example, salary is also debited here, traveling expenses are also debited here, telephone expenses are also debited here, we won't be able to make any analysis of that. But if all accounts are maintained separately, we can make an analysis of those expenses, right? That's why the rule is, since if they were to be debited to capital accounts, that's why whenever an expense account is maintained, that is always debited. That is, whenever you spend some money on some expense, for example, you pay for your salaries, in that case, salary account will be debited. So if this account was not maintained separately, you would have debited capital account. That's why the rule, all expenses should be debited. Now, let us come to the incomes, revenues. What does this mean? Whenever we earn something, for example, if discount is earned, it will increase the capital account. If expense accounts are debited, now all the incomes should be credited. Why so? If separate account was not maintained, all incomes would have been credited to capital account. Right? Just like in accounting equation, we add all our incomes to capital account. Okay? Because of this, if for our analysis purposes, we need to keep this separate. We need to keep all incomes accounts separate. So all incomes and revenues will be credited. So our rule is all incomes and revenues are credited. For example, if you earn rent, right? For example, if you earn rent, what will you do? You will credit the rent account. If you earn discount, you will credit the discount account. So I think this rule is quite clear. Let us take an example. If you receive rupees 5,000 as rent, if we analyze this transaction, it contains two aspects. One, cash is increasing by 5,000, right? So when assets increase, they are debited. So we will debit the cash account with 5,000, and for reference purpose, we will write here rent. As in this case, we would have written capital. Now, since cash has increased, we have added 5,000 to cash account. But at the same time, we have received rent. For this purpose, we will open the rent account and it will be credited by 5,000. Here, for reference purpose, it will be given that we received this amount in cash. If you look at it, since 5,000 has been debited to cash account and rent has been credited to 5,000, the accounting equation will remain the same. So that means we are maintaining the accounting equation by following these rules. So rules are debit when assets increase, credit when assets decrease. And rule 2, credit when liabilities increase, debit when liabilities. All incomes and revenues are credited. So these are the 4 rules by which we can write every journal entry. And in my next lecture, I will tell you how to write all the journal entries. Thank you.